Your Dog's Friend is a nonprofit 501c3 whose mission is to help keep dogs out of shelters by educating and supporting their humans. We promote positive method of training and behavior modification through stress-free methods. As part of that mission, we offer free webinars like the one you're about to watch. Subjects range from dog behavior, stress-free training, and other tools to help you understand your relationship with your dog. If you like the webinar, be sure to give us a thumbs up. Click the notification bell and subscribe to our channel. By subscribing, you'll be notified when future videos are posted. Now enjoy the webinar.
Welcome to your Dog's Friends webinar series. Today's presentation is about clicker training. And whether or not you currently use a clicker, we're sure you have plenty of questions. And we're the perfect speaker for you. Laurie Luck is the owner and trainer at Smart Dog University in Mount Airy, Maryland. She is also on the faculty of Karen Pryor Academy, a well-known program that teaches and accredits positive trainers. Laurie has trained service puppies for over 10 years and is doing board and train for puppies, including the larger breeds, from 10 weeks to 5.5 months. Please put your questions in chat. We will do our best to get to as many as possible. Most will be at the end, unless it is something specific to what Laurie just said. I want to remind you that donations help support these webinars, so please consider donating by going to the donate icon on our homepage or using the link that I will put up in chat. I know that you will learn a lot today. It's all yours, Laurie.
Hello. I'm so happy to be here. It's great to be back. It's so much fun. I love clicker training. I have been doing it for what feels like forever. And I started at the very beginning when I originally started training 100 years ago. I did not use the clicker at all. I used a choke chain, and I did a pretty good job with it. And then just by luck, sort of fell into a clicker training class, and the dog that I had did amazing with it. And the instructor that I had was an amazing instructor and sort of nurtured me along. So fast forward 30 years, and here I am. I love it. I think it's fabulous. And it's a journey. And so I'm here to sort of help you no matter where you are on your way. I'm here to help you. I'll answer questions. I'll give you some insight. I will do my best to explain clicker training, what it's good for, and how to do it. And so let's jump in. And like Deborah said, if there are questions, feel free to put it in the chat. I can't see the chat the way my computer is set up, but Deborah has said that she would ask questions. She would relay the questions to me. I will leave, I hope, about 30 minutes at the end just for questions. So I plan to leave plenty of room for questions, but if there is something that you don't understand by the way I've presented it on the screen, please ask that in the chat, and Deborah will relay those to me. So I'm going to just give you a quick roadmap for where we're going today, so you sort of know what's happening and where we're going. So I'm going to talk about all the W's: who, what, when, why, where, and how of clicker training. We're going to talk about clicker training and how you can have fun with your dog. And then I think the thing that most people want to know about is how do I use it to fix problems? So we're going to go over all of those things. I want to show you just a quick clip of how much fun clicker training can be. So this is one of the service dog puppies that I raised a couple of years ago. His name is Wit. And that brown pad, I just want to teach him to go to the mat. That's going to turn into a go to your mat and settle, right? So I'm trying to teach him settle, but this is what it looks like. And this is how much fun clicker training can be. So I'll just let you, it's a quick clip.
your little showman stuff. Here. Style, Papa. Were you gonna offer me that?
So that's just a little bit of, that's how much fun it can be for that puppy. I mean, you look at that puppy and he's having the time of his life, right? I mean, he's learning and he's experimenting and he's getting it right. It's amazing. So I love clicker training. That's just one example of how much fun it could be. I'm going to get into the specifics, but whenever that puppy put his paws on the mat, that's when I would click and treat. And I'll get into sort of the communication there. Every time I click, it means he did something good and he's earned a treat. But before I really get into this talk, I wanted to, there's a couple of different ways that we as a society tend to approach things. We either like to teach dogs, people, whatever, teach what we like. We're taking a proactive approach. Or we tend to get rid of what we don't like, so a more reactive approach. And clicker training really focuses on getting more of what we do like. So we like to teach the things that we like to see. And then one last thing, as we get into this, some dogs might not like the sound of the clicker. I have a clicker here. It sounds like this. It can be loud. If your dog is sound sensitive, they might not like it. That's okay. You don't actually have to use a clicker. We call it clicker training because that's the popular term for it, but it's really marker-based training. And the marker can be like the sound of a pen. I don't know if my computer audio my microphone is good enough so you can hear this, but it's just a pen click, right? So, or you can use a sound that you make, or a lot of times in my video, you might hear, yip. It's just a sound that marks the good behavior. So if your dog is sound sensitive or doesn't like the sound of the actual clicker, it's okay. We have ways around it. It's more of a way to train rather than if your dog doesn't like the clicker, that doesn't mean that you absolutely positively cannot use clicker training. So before you start clicker training with your dog, if you haven't started yet, check to see what your dog thinks about that click. So in general, what I like to do is you can hide it. You can sort of put the clicker up under your arm, and that muffles the sound of the click. You can put it behind your back. You can put it under a pillow. In other words, we don't want to scare the dog and have the dog run out of the room and hate the sound of the clicker before we even get started. So just a quick note, not every dog likes the sound of the clicker. That's okay. You don't have to use the specific clicker. And there are different types of clickers. This is a softer clicker. It makes a different sound. But that's all marker-based training or clicker training. So let's talk about who does clicker training. That's a picture of me in a grocery store with a service dog in training. So who does clicker training? Zookeepers, service dog trainers, that's what I did. Veterinary hospitals, now with the fear-free movement. Horse trainers, some horse trainers will use clicker training. Lots of pet owners, right? Your dog's friend is full of trainers that work with pet owners to clicker train, and of course dog trainers. We use clicker training a lot. So what is clicker training? That right there is a picture of what's called a box clicker. It's the kind of clicker that I use the most. It's basically a little box, a little rectangular box, as you can see. And when you press one end of it, it makes a tic-tac sound. That's the sound that it makes. And that's tells the learner, your dog, exactly what he's done to earn a goodie, and that if he repeats that action, he gets another goodie, another click, and another treat. It's quick because it's so clear. What is earning the reinforcer, what is earning the treat is so clear to the dog. because the sound of the clicker tells the dog, that thing right there, that what you just did is great. Please do it again, and you'll continue to earn goodies. So it's pretty clear. It uses the rules of behavior. Don't worry, that's where I'm going next, the rules of behavior. So what are the rules of behavior? In general, as a society, we, people, dogs, horses, dolphins, bugs, birds, we do what works, right? We tend to not do what doesn't work. And we we generally in life avoid things that are unpleasant. So for example, if your typical commute to work is traffic laden, right? You're in bottlenecks all the time. You might try to find an alternate route. You might take a back road, right? So if that works and you get around the traffic, you will do that more often, right? If the detour that you take or the alternate route that you take, if that works for you and it gets you to work sooner, or at least gets you out of the traffic, you're going to tend to take that back route, that side route, more frequently. Why? Because it lets you avoid the unpleasant thing, which is the traffic, right? So this is not something that is unique just to dogs. It works with us too, right? We're masters at this, and so are dogs and cats and everything else. We seek the easiest, the path of least resistance, right? And so knowing that, we can use the clicker to sort of be like a neon sign. So, if you could only imagine that there is a neon sign, actually it's sort of what Waze does for us in the traffic, in your traffic app. If the route that you want to go is red, you look for an alternate route, right? You can tell sort of before you leave the house, this way is not good, this way is better, right? And we always tend to try to take the path of least resistance. The click is sort of what tells the dog where the green roads are. Like, this is the easiest way to get to what you want. And so that's what the click does. It's sort of like a Waze, for dogs, for our pets, so they can figure out sort of what's the easiest way to get there. So there we go. So dogs do the same thing. They do what works. They tend not to do what doesn't work, and they try to avoid things that are unpleasant. So it makes it really easy. All right. Clicker training sort of plays right into that, and it gives us just a really easy way to identify for our dogs the things that we'd like them to do and the things that we'll pay for. Okay, why do we do it? If I'm sticking with the who, what, why, when, where, and how, what are the benefits of clicker training? As I mentioned, it's really, really clear what works, right, for the dog. Like, it's really clear. Because it's clear for the dog, it also tends to be pretty quick. You could see how quickly that puppy, Wit, learned to go to the mat. We had not practiced that before. That wasn't set up. That I tend to record a lot of my training sessions. That was just one that I recorded, and I could show you 5 other videos of different skills where dogs pick up on it pretty quickly because it's so clear. It opens that two-way communication, which is really cool. And that in turn, sort of this cool side effect that you just get from clicker training is you get this cool, like, little partnership between you and your dog. If you need it to be, it can be super precise. With the service dog work that for the puppies that I train, we can get really precise behaviors if we need it. As you could also see from the video, it's just fun. It is really a lot of fun. It's easy. You wouldn't believe how easy it is. If you've never done it before, trust me, it's super easy. We're going to do some activities here before I let you go, sort of to show you how easy it is. And it's pretty much free. I mean, you need to get a clicker, or like I said, something that makes noise, a pen that clicks, or you can use your mouth, which is free, right? So all kinds of easy and good advantages to use a clicker. And I had a picture on the right of an old girl. This is my girl Lily. She's no longer with us, but I used to use the clicker with her even after she was an old lady, and even after she learned everything that she needed to know. She found it so enjoyable to try new things and to learn. And it's just a form of enrichment. It's just a way of making our dogs' lives a little bit richer. So as an aside, clicker training, another benefit of clicker training that I didn't put in there is it works with a dog of any age. And this old lady, she loved it. She really, even when she couldn't hear anymore and her vision was going, she still really enjoyed it. So anyway, just an aside. When and where do you do it? Clicker training. Anytime you want. You can do it for fun. You can do it for competition. You can do it to solve problems. You can start it whenever you want. So if you've got a dog who's 5 and never clicker trained before, start tomorrow. You can start next week. If you're going to be getting a puppy in the summer, plan for it. Do it in the summer. When you get your new puppy, you can use it for fun. If you want to start out, just to kind of get the hang of it, you don't have to get real serious and into it. You can just experiment with it. Just have fun with it. Or you can go all in. There's plenty of resources. Your Dog's Friend has plenty of resources. If you want to go, if you're gung-ho and you want to go for it, go for it. And there's plenty, of positive trainers in this area and all over. Really, clicker training is really starting to grow by leaps and bounds. Even if you're not from this area, the DC metro area, we can find you people who can help you. That's for sure. In fact, I have a resource at the end, and you can take a look at that. But when and where, whenever and wherever you want, honestly. How do you do it? Again, pretty simple. You need 3 things. You need a dog or a puppy. You need a clicker or a marker. I say a clicker because this is a clicker training talk. If your dog doesn't like the clicker, if you don't want to use a clicker, you just substitute marker in there. So you need a dog, you need a clicker, and you need treats. Easy as that. I have some treats here. This is, I think, summer sausage and Colby Jack cheese. A quick aside on treats. We want something that's valuable to the dog, but of course, nothing that's going to upset their stomach or cause them to be sick. These treats are tiny. They're about the size of a pea. I should have put a penny up there so you could sort of get a scale. These treats I cut up for a Great Dane. So they're tiny and they are rich. So if anybody's out there going, I don't know if my dog could eat summer sausage and cheese, know your dog, and you need to figure out what's appropriate for your dog. The Great Dane that I was using this for could handle that without any problem. And like I said, they were itty bitty, teeny tiny treats. But anyway, that's just an aside for treats. We'll get deeper into that as we get deeper into this talk. Okay, how do you do it? Super, super simple. If you can remember these couple of things, you're gonna have it licked. You click for the stuff that your dog does that you like. Okay, so if you like it, you can click it and pay for it, and you'll get more of it. Okay. It helps if you click when the dog is doing the stuff that you like, right? So you kind of have to catch them while they're doing it. Otherwise, it's hard for them to go backwards in time and go, oh, you clicked me for what I did 5 minutes ago. It's much easier if you click them and treat them while they're doing whatever it is that you like. And then you just give them a goodie after you click, right? So it's like, hey, that's what you're doing right now. I love it. I'm going to mark it with the click, and I'm going to give you a goodie. It's that easy. So if we go backwards, you need 3 things: right? You need a dog, a clicker, and treats, right? Pretty simple. And then how do you do it? You click for the stuff that you like while the dog is doing it, and then you give them a goodie, right? It's pretty straightforward. That's another upside to clicker training. It's pretty simple. You can practice right now at your house or later. I have the supplies here. There was really no way to get you guys supplies so you could practice at home. All you really need, there's a couple things you need. You need to practice your timing. So the timing of your clicker, right? So that you can click at the time the dog is doing the behavior. And then you just need to practice delivering the goodie, right? So again, pretty simple. I tell people all the time, they're like, I'm not coordinated. I can't handle all those things. And I always tell people, if you can ride a bicycle, or if you can drive a car, or if you can, if you can surf on a smartphone, if you can cook dinner, you can clicker train, because it is super duper simple. And you don't need a dog to practice your own skills, right? So you can practice your own skills. Like I said, just 2 of them, just clicking is one skill, and then delivering a treat is another skill. You can practice that right in your own home without needing a dog, and I'll show you how to do it. Let's run through it first, and then I'll show you what you can do when you get home. So first thing is to practice your timing. So you can, if you have a partner, it's easy. But if you don't have a partner, you can watch TV or listen to a podcast. And what you're listening for or looking for is anytime the camera angle changes, if you're watching TV, or anytime a person or a character speaks, if you're listening to like an audiobook or a podcast, okay? When you see, let's just assume you're going to watch TV. When the camera angle changes, what you do is you click every time the camera angle changes. That's it. You just click. You just have the clicker in your hand, and anytime the camera angle changes, you click, or a different shot. You know, if they do a different shot, click. If you're watching the evening news and they throw it from the home studio and they throw it to like you know, the weather person, you can click when that happens, and then when the weather person, all you see are the graphics, you can click that. And then when the weather person throws it back to the guy at the main desk, click that. And then when the person at the main desk throws it to the lady out in the field, click that. So all you're really doing is worrying about watching and clicking, watching and clicking. Usually doesn't take too long, a few minutes, before you're like, I got this. This is pretty easy. This is simple. Yes, it is simple. Then, again, no dog needed. You can, let me see if I can move out of the way here so you can see. You have a, this is just a little container of this is just my dog's food. Okay. And then you've got, I wonder if I should, tell me, if you guys can't see this, just write it in the chat. And then Deborah, you can tell me if I need to stop sharing my screen. Actually, let me stop sharing my screen. Oh, I don't know how to do that.
I think they can see it anyway.
They can see it? Okay.
Yeah.
Good, because I can't see my mouse. Okay. Okay, so you've got a dog, you've got a little container full of treats, and you have just your dog's bowl. All you're going to do is, can't really see it. Okay, there we go. Dog's food, dog's bowl. You're just going to click your clicker for nothing, just for nothing. You're just going to click your clicker. Then you're going to move a treat from the food container to the dog's bowl. We're pretending that this is the dog's mouth because we don't want to get the dog involved yet until we get our skills down. Okay, so you're going to click, move a treat from here to here. And then you're going to click, move from here to here. Click, move a treat. The one thing you want to keep an eye on is you want to, my dog is going, I need some of these. When you're clicking and treating, if you can remember to keep your treat hand sort of just, on your hip or at your pocket, click, and then treat. And then this hand comes sort of back to wherever, click, and then treat. The one thing you just want to avoid doing is you want to avoid doing this. Click, treat, click, treat. You want to have this hand out of the food bowl, click, and treat. And my dog is wondering why he's not getting any of those. Okay. Good job, buddy. So that's pretty simple. And then, oops, all we're going to do, make sure I'm not. So you're going to put it all together. So you are really good at just clicking. Your timing is good. So your click is timed every single time the camera changes angle or, goes to a different person. The clicker timing is great. You got it. You've practiced separately your skill of just randomly clicking, delivering a treat, clicking, or if you have a partner, they can click the clickers even better, and then you deliver the treat. Then you put it all together. You're going to watch or listen to the TV or radio. You're going to click every time the camera angle changes and move a treat from one to the other. The reason we're moving from one container to the other is because we don't have a dog right now to deliver the treat to, because we want to make sure our skills are good. So that's why we are using a bowl to sort of capture our treats, because we want to practice our skills before we get the dog involved, so that we get our skills, up to par before we go, okay, dog, let's work together. So we're sort of just polishing our skills to make sure that we've got our part down before then we try to teach the dog something. It takes the slightest bit of coordination, but it's so easy to practice it. And I'm not, honestly, in my 30 years of clicker training, I have not run across a person yet who couldn't practice and get the clicker mechanics down. Because like I said, if you can ride a bike, drive a car, fix dinner, just about anybody can clicker train. It's pretty simple. The skills that are involved are pretty simple. When you feel comfortable practicing, with the TV, the TV news or whatever program, clicking, treating, then you're ready to start working with your dog. It's that simple. It's pretty easy. That's one of the things I love about it, is it's pretty easy. And even if you mess it up, the dog will forgive you, because a treat is coming, right? So we're still heroes in our dog's eyes because we're still feeding them a treat. So it's got a built-in buffer of getting you up to speed, because the dog's like, okay, so you didn't click at the right time, but I still got a treat out of it, so I'll hang out with you until you perfect your skills. So it's I love it for that. It's very forgiving. Oops. Okay. There are some rules, of course. There's always rules, right? One of the rules is, if you click, even if it was by mistake, you got a treat. That's just the bargain you make with your dog. If I click, you will get a treat. Period. End of story. Again, if you want the clicker to work the way it's supposed to, when you click, you're clicking only for the stuff that you want to see again. Okay, so we're not going to use clicker training to interrupt bad behavior or to get their attention. We want the clicker to mean, I love that, and here's a goodie for doing that. Okay, so just remember, that's a pretty important point. The temptation is, once the dog figures out that click means treat, the temptation is going to be, your dog's not listening, right? Your dog is barking at the fence. So you click the clicker and they turn and run to you, which does seem to work in the short, in the short run. You go, well, hey, it worked. My dog came back to me and stopped barking. Yes, but what you just paid them for was barking, or, not listening, or whatever. So whatever you click, you have to pay for. So you want to make sure that you're clicking only for good stuff. Because yes, like I said, your dog will come from the fence if you click the clicker, but you've just told them to go back to the fence and you will click again and pay again. And that's usually what we don't want. One click, one treat. So even if they did a fabulous job, so it's not like applause. It's not like, yeah, you did a great job and we applaud, applaud, applaud. It's just really straight and simple. One click, one treat. Here's kind of a fun one, I think. Your dog gets to decide if the goodie was worth it. So as you saw, I have a Labrador. He would eat mulch if I gave it to him, right? So he's pretty easy. Like I can use his regular dog food. I can use his dog food as treats around the house. If I'm going to take him out and about in public, I do take higher value treats because the job is harder. But just because you buy dog treats doesn't mean that your dog likes it, right? So just like I don't like Reese's Pieces, right? It's a candy, it's a snack. But if you want to thank me or reward me for doing a favor for you, Reese's Pieces aren't going to be the way to get me to help you again. M&Ms, peanut butter M&Ms, absolutely. I will ask you if you need help again. But if I get Reese's Pieces, yeah, you might love them, your family might love them. I don't like them, right? So for me, it's not nearly as rewarding to help you again as if I got peanut butter M&Ms. Okay, so the dog gets to decide if it's worth doing again. Hang on one second. Let me just let this dog out real quick. Sorry about that. Okay. Which kind of leads us into, it's a technical term called reinforcer. That's what the treat is. In the dog training world or the clicker training world, we call it a reinforcer, but you can certainly think of it as a reward. Okay. But the dog should love it. Love it. Ideally, in the perfect world, you are the gatekeeper to that reward. So if you free feed your dog, and what do I mean by that? If you leave your dog's bowl down all the time with food in it, you're not really the gatekeeper. Your dog can go get food whenever they want. But if the food bowl goes down twice a day, like in my house, now if I put some food into this bowl, it becomes really important because this is something that I can put down on the floor for my dog, or I can dole out one by one for my dog. So it's something that is in limited quantity, and I'm the one that has the opposable thumbs and can open the pantry, scoop it into his dog bowl, and put it on the floor, or dole it out as a one treat at a time. Your reward should be worth the effort of earning the click. So what do I mean by that? Well, let's just say I helped you move and we worked all day. I mean, from like 8 a.m. till 7 o'clock at night, and it's hard. Again, if you give me even peanut butter M&Ms, I just get a box of peanut butter M&Ms. That's not equal to the amount of work that I put in, right? Now, if you got me lunch and you got me a pizza for dinner, and then, to top it off, here's your extra goodie, here's your peanut butter M&Ms. Yeah, then, maybe so. So if you ask your dog to come away from the fence from, let's say, a neighborhood dog that is right up against your fence, if they come all the way back to you and you give them a Cheerio, that's probably not going to be equal value, right? Coming away from the fence was more expensive than a Cheerio, right? They might need to get a piece of that cheese that you saw in that previous slide of mine, or something, a really delicious chicken jerky treat, something that just, whoa, they love. So it has to be worth the effort. The same thing goes with people, as I said. Change it up. Sometimes it's cheese. Sometimes it's chicken. Sometimes it's kibble. It's sort of, the variety is the spice of life, right? So I think dogs appreciate variety as much as we do. Sometimes people say, yeah, but I can't just keep treating all day. My dog's going to be fat. Yes, they will, if they also get their regular ration of food, right? So when I have puppies here for board and train, I know their total daily quantity. So let's say they get 2 cups a day of food, half a cup in the morning, a half cup at lunch, and a half cup at dinner, right? So that's 1.5 cups. That leaves me half a cup that I can use daily for treats. So I tend to factor in how much my dog, or the dog that I'm training, is earning through treats, and I take that out of their daily ration. So in other words, they're still getting the same amount of calories per day. I'm just using part of their calorie allowance as training treats. So you can sort of balance that out, because what we don't want is dogs, they're beautifully trained, but they're, round, and it's, bad on their joints and bad for their heart, and just all kinds of bad things are not great. Things happen when we get dogs that are too heavy. Okay. I have red meat here. This is sort of, I'm being, what's the word? Extra, right? And then there's a turkey dinner. I put those there, not because I expect you to feed your dog raw beef or give them a turkey dinner, but it's sort of, the dog should love it. So if your dog is okay with their kibble, but they go bananas for chicken jerky, if it's a hard task, let's give them some chicken jerky, right? So I put this up here, not because I want you to give your dogs raw beef or a chicken or a turkey dinner, but because we need to think about high value stuff. Okay, that's the love it part of what they should love. Okay. Let's talk a little bit about the having fun piece with your dog. What we do, how we train, is we say we get the behavior, right? So we have to get the behavior first. Then we name the behavior. We put a name on it, slap a label on that behavior. And then we have to real life that behavior, okay? So what do I mean by that? How do we get behavior? What do you mean by get behavior? Well, we have to find a way to make that behavior happen so that we're able to click it and treat it. We can capture it, which is it just happens by itself. So my dog just happened to show up. I can click and reinforce that. I didn't ask him to show up. He just showed up. He appeared at my elbow. And so I can click it and treat it. That's called capturing. I didn't do anything, but I had the clicker here. And when he showed up, I told him I loved it, and I clicked and I treated him. That's one way to get behavior. And I say, we call it get behavior. That's it. That's all I got. That's it. You can also shape behavior. And I've got a good video that's going to show how we shape behavior. And then we'll talk about naming it, putting a label on it, on that behavior. So after you have it, go, okay, now we've got this great behavior, like he just went to his bed, right? He did that all on his own, right? I didn't ask him to do it. He did that all on his own. So I clicked him and I gave him a goodie. He will probably head back to his bed after this. If he doesn't, it's fine, but he's going to go back to his bed. I can click that and I can give him a goodie. Right, that's how simple it is. Here we are on a live webinar, and I can actually train my dog while I'm on a webinar. So that's pretty much how easy it is. So we've got the behavior, then we can name it. So like, what if he's not in his bed, but I would like to tell him to go to his bed? That's what's called naming a behavior. And then we have to real life it, because we need to be able, the dog needs to be able to do that behavior, even if there are distractions, like someone's knocking at the door, or someone walks past the window, or I'm at my computer and he needs to go all the way over there to his bed with distance, or I need him to stay on it, say, for the length of this webinar, right? So that's what we call real lifing. They have to be able to do it even if there's other stuff going on, that's the distractions, even if I'm not right there where they need to do it, and if they have to do it for a fair amount of time. Duration is also like a stay. So like he goes to his bed and he stays, right? So that's what real lifing a behavior. It's my shorthand. I call it, we got to real life it. I was like, we got it. Now we have to real life it. Okay, this is what we call shaping. I'm not doing anything to get the dog into the crate. This is probably an 8-week-old puppy. His name is Walter. He was at my house for a board and train, and this is his first experience with the crate. You'll notice I just sort of sit there and enjoy the fun that is helping this puppy get into and out of his crate willingly. So I'll let this play. So he looked at the crate, so I told him that was great. He's in the crate, so I click and treat. All kinds of good stuff comes.
All right, Mr. Monster.
When he's in the crate. And I need him to come back out so he can go back in.
Look how smart you are, little one. Look how smart you are. Now you can come out and get this one. Look, Walter. So smart. Look at you, right here. Oh, you're gonna lie down? Absolutely, you get something for lying down.
So he just volunteered it down. I said, oh my gosh, yes,
Oh,
absolutely.
lie down? Absolutely. Good job. Good boy. You eat that? Come on. Oh, you left one in your crate, silly. Yeah, you saw it. Good job. All right, come on back out. Good boy. Nice work, friend. Here, back it up, back it up. There you go. Okay. There you go. Good boy. Oh, you got it. Come on back out. Okay.
So it's entirely up to him whether he wants to go back in or not. I'm not doing anything to get him back in. He's just going in. But because he gets clicked and treated for going in, he's like, cool, I get this. If you seem to like it when I go in here. And now I'm just introducing a closed door. So it's pretty, shaping is, we do it in very small steps. So the very first time I clicked him, I think he just looked at the crate, right? He just looked at it and I went, yeah, absolutely. Good job, buddy. Clicked him for looking, put the treat inside so he could go inside to get the treat. And then once he was in there, I clicked him 2 more times for being in, and then said, come on back out. I need you to come back out, right? So that I could click him for thinking about going back in. And again, this was probably our first session with the crate, and it's just, that's how fast it is. And I called him back out each time, gave him a treat for coming out, so that he had the opportunity to go back in and get another click and treat. He was doing so well in such a small amount of time. I thought, well, he's going to have to stay in there with the door closed eventually. So, and by eventually that evening, right? Because he's got to sleep in there at night. So let's close the door and let the closed door bring the clicks and treats, right? So every time the door is closed, he gets a click and a treat, so that we're teaching the puppy to not only tolerate being in a crate, but actually enjoy it, right? So we can actually, with clicker training, we can affect how the dog feels about anything in particular. So in this case, it's a crate. One of the very first things I teach all the puppies that come to me is that crate is the best place in the whole wide world to be, because that's where goodies show up. And this is part of how I do it. It's just really, it's really simple. It's really easy, and it's all their choice, right? I don't put them in the crate. They go in and they find that it's a great place to be. All right. You'll see more of this, but not this puppy, a different puppy. So that's called getting the behavior, what you just saw. We got the behavior, right? Puppy went into the crate all by himself. We got the behavior. Now we have to call it something, right? Because getting the behavior, having the puppy go in the crate is good. Have to have that. But it's not good enough, because we need the puppy to go in there when we want them to, right? So we have to give that behavior, we have to give going into the crate a name. We call it a cue. That's just what we call it in the dog training world. You can call it a label, you can call it a word, doesn't matter, but we give it a word, okay? That word lets the dog know, hey, here's your chance to earn a goodie. It is different than a command. A command is do it or else, right? I command you. If you just think about the word command, I command you to go to your crate. That's not what we're doing. As you could see from the video, I wasn't commanding him to do anything. And you'll see when, in another video, when I add the cue, when I add the word, it's not a command. It's, hey, if you go in the crate, I will give you a goodie. And you get that sort of cooperation really quickly. It's really fun. So the cue allows you to ask for the behavior when you want it. Okay, so you're able to say to the dog or the puppy, please go in your crate, please go to your kennel, please come to me now, I need you to come to me. It also is great for the dog because he knows what behavior to do, right, to earn the goodie. So they don't have to go through every single behavior that they know trying to earn a goodie from you. They just have to chill out until you ask them to do something. Then they know exactly which behavior to do to get the click and the treat. All right, so what is a cue? It, again, like I said, it tells the dog what to do to earn a goodie. Ideally, it should be simple. Crate or kennel, home, whatever. It should be just, it can be a hand signal. It can be a word. It can be lots of different things, but we'd like it to be simple. We'd like it to be sort of just one thing. Kennel, that's what we use in our house. It should be clear, right? So it should be simple and clear. Ideally, it's the same thing no matter who in the house says it. So in other words, if you want the puppy to go to the crate, it should always be the same word, whether it's crate or house or kennel, so that everybody in that house says the same word. Because if one person calls it house and another person calls it kennel and another person says go to bed, you can see where that might be confusing, right? You know that that's your word for for the puppy to go get in the kennel. and the other person knows that house is the word, but the puppy, or the dog is living what? Like they've got 3 different teachers, and the teachers are defining words, terms in different ways. And it's hard. It's hard for us, imagine if in our job, you had 4 different bosses and they had different terms for the same thing, and you had to decipher, what does he mean by that? If they all use the same phrase or term, it would be so easy. You could just go like that. Also, ideally, we're going to say that word or give that cue just one time. So you want to avoid saying sit, 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 or kennel, 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 right? You want to say it just once. And that's in the ideal world, right? But that's ideally. So a cue tells the dog what you want him to do. It's simple and clear. It's the same no matter who in the house is giving the cue, and you give it just once. So here on the right, this is my cue for my dog Rogie to stay, right? So you stay right where you are. So why is the cue important? It's important so that you're able to ask the dog for the behavior when you want it, not just when the dog wants to do it, okay? And so the dog understands when this behavior is going to pay. So that takes away the guessing game for your dog. Do you want to sit now? Do you want me to give you your paw now? Do you want me to roll over now? If you have a dog, they might be running through their sort of list of behaviors that they know how to do. They're just hoping that at some point they stumble onto the thing that you want, and you'll give them a treat or tell them they're a good dog or whatever. That takes the guessing out of it for your dog, which, as you might if you can sort of think about that from a human perspective, wouldn't it be nice to not have to try to guess what your family members want or your boss wants? Wouldn't it be nice if they just told you what they wanted? And the other good thing about this is that a year down the road, you're not stuck rewarding every instance of a behavior, so you don't have to always keep reinforcing or rewarding a behavior. You can reward it when you ask for it and they do it. Okay. Now, the fun stuff, how and when to add a cue. All right. And I have a video of this coming up, so hold all this sort of in your memory banks. I joke and I tell people, are you willing to bet me $100 that your dog is going to do the behavior? So if you think back to that little black puppy, Walter, I was willing to bet $100 that after that puppy ate the treat outside of the crate, he's going to go back in, right? We were pretty sure that he was going to go back in to that crate. If you're willing to bet $100, then yes, you're ready to add the word, to label that behavior. If you're willing to bet that $100, you're going to give the cue, you're going to say that word right before the dog does the thing, okay? And then, of course, the dog did what you wanted, so you click it, and then you give the treat. If while you're teaching the dog the new label, the word, or the hand signal that goes with the behavior, for the moment, we're going to stop rewarding the times that the dog does the behavior voluntarily. Okay, so if we don't, after we introduce the cue, we're only going to pay when the dog does the behavior when asked. And here is a human example that might help you understand why we do that. Let's say I have a lawn service and I have them come once every 2 weeks. And they get paid, I don't know, $100 every time they mow my lawn. Once every 2 weeks. However, they start showing up once a week. And they say, okay, now you owe me $100 every single week, as opposed to every other week. I'm going to say, no, I don't owe you $100 extra every other week because I only asked you to come once every other week. Just because you showed up to mow my lawn, that's great. And thank you very much for that. But I'm not now going to pay you $100 a week when the arrangement was you would show up when I asked, which was once every other week. I'll give you $100 for that for sure, because that was our agreement. We agreed that once every other week, I would pay you $100, not every time you showed up, right? Otherwise, if I were to do that, my gosh, what if they showed up every day? I can't pay them $100 every day, right? So we're only going to pay the lawn service person or the dog to do the behavior of mowing the lawn or sitting or whatever when we ask them to do it. Okay, does that make sense? Okay, here's a video of how this actually works. Okay, so Teddy's going to earn a click only if he performs the behavior when I ask. I'm going to set him up, so he's going to go. I'm sort of making sure that I'm willing to bet $100 that he's going to go in this crate. Yep. So he's done it twice in a row. I think I do it a couple more times here without a cue. Right. That behavior is pretty reliable. I'm going to bet $100 that Teddy's going to head back into the kennel. We're going to say the word just once, right as the dog is doing the behavior. Kennel. So I'm just attaching a word, kennel, to what he's doing. Kennel. I'm tossing the treat outside. That's actually on the video. It's not in my house. Teddy, sit. Sit. So I'm just testing right now to make sure he doesn't go back in the kennel unless I cue him. So I cued a different behavior. Can you sit outside the kennel? So now he's heard the cue several times while he's doing the behavior. So now I'm going to throw in some easy stuff that he already knows how to do. Touch my hand. Touch. Kennel. Right, so he's figuring out, this is a concept that dogs have to figure out, that what we say to them gives them information. Touch. Touch. This is cue for down. Kennel. So this is the very, very beginning of teaching a puppy that what we say carries information, right? We can help them figure out what to do and when to do it, so that after your dog learns one or two or three things. So you saw probably 4 different things there. We saw a touch my hand, we saw a lie down, we saw a sit, and we saw a kennel. Kennel was the newest behavior, and you could see, I didn't cut that. The reason I didn't cut that video is I wanted you to see how predictable his behavior of going in the kennel really is. It's very, very predictable. So the words, the cues that are attached to each of those behaviors, the touch, the sit, the down, and the kennel, after he learns to listen to what I am asking him to do, then all he really has to do is just sit back and wait for me to tell him which thing to do. And when he does it, that will pay. So it's a little bit of a concept for a dog to learn. But after they learn a couple of different behaviors and a couple of different cues, you could see Teddy's face as he sort of listened. You know, what did she say? Kennel. Okay, and he walks into the kennel. Again, that just sort of shows how clear the clicker is and how much information the click can convey. And that's also the importance of a cue, having a word to tell your dog what to do and when to do it. That's just sort of a basic sort of foundation or building block of clicker training. This is the Great Dane that the treats were for earlier. This is with him when he was a baby. He was just a puppy. And here, as you can see on the screen, the clicker will help you fix bad behavior too. So not only does it help you teach the good behavior, right? So it helps you teach your dog how to go into a crate, how to sit, how to lie down, how to spin, how to roll over, all that good stuff. But we can also use the clicker to help fix bad behavior. And that's Scoonie with one of my shoes, right? So
Laurie, can I interrupt for 1 second? This is Dee.
Yeah.
I think the sound might have been off just a little bit on the video you were showing. Just a little bit, I think, because there are a few questions on when to attach the cue.
Okay.
So it looked almost like the dog was coming out of the crate and the cue. Not totally, but if you just want to reiterate or just talk again the timing of when you first attach the cue.
Yes. In fact, you know what? Let me turn this volume down if I can. Okay, so in the beginning, the puppy is going in the crate all by himself. I've clicked and I've treated. So what I've done is I've turned the volume down on the clicked and treated. So that this is all the puppies going in and out by himself. Okay, so now I'm getting ready to add the cue. Kennel, click, and treat. 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 Telephone interruption there. Sit. He didn't sit, he laid down. So I ask him to sit, click, and treat. Kennel, click, and treat. All right, so hopefully that helped. I tried to turn down the volume and just sort of narrate as to when I was giving the cue. Sorry about that. Because timing's really important there. Really, really. So I'm glad you jumped in because that's super important. I apologize for sometimes the technology just lags behind a little bit. Okay, so we've got our bad boy here, Schooner, and he's got the shoe in his mouth. We can use the clicker to help fix bad behavior. This is I put this picture here because the leash is really tight, right? So let's fix the bad stuff. How do we do that with the clicker? Fixing the bad stuff. So first, identify what is it that your dog is doing that's bad. And specific is better than general, right? My dog pulls on the leash when another dog is in the street. My dog barks at the door when the doorbell rings. My dog begs at the table when there's food, right? Just be really specific. So that's what we'd like to hear. What we don't want to hear, I shouldn't say we don't want to hear it. It's just not as helpful. My dog doesn't listen. My dog is stubborn. My dog is hard-headed. My dog has selective hearing. They might be all those things, but what specifically is sort of the bad stuff. And here's why we ask that question: what does your dog do that's bad? Because what we want to know is, what do you want your dog to do instead of that thing, right? So if you say my dog doesn't listen, that doesn't really help. It doesn't listen when you call him, when you ask him to come inside, when you ask him to go lie down. You know, what specifically is your dog doing that's not great? And then if we could fix it, what would you like your dog to do instead of the bad stuff? Once we know sort of what you'd like to substitute, right? So you've got, it's like ordering from a restaurant, right? The special comes with mushrooms. I go, well, I don't really like mushrooms. Could I sub, I don't know, tomatoes in instead of the mushrooms? Yeah, absolutely. We'll replace the mushrooms with the tomatoes. Great. I love tomatoes. I love the sandwich now because I don't have to have mushrooms on it. I'm going to have tomatoes on it. It's sort of the exact same thing. So instead of mushrooms, you're going to get tomatoes. Instead of barking at the fence, you get a dog that comes when called. Okay. We can teach the coming when called with clicker. Super simple. So to give you a sort of a better, more thorough example, instead of jumping, begging, or nipping, how about we substitute a sit instead of the jump, or a settle instead of the beg, or grabbing a toy instead of grabbing your leg or your arm or your pants, right? So we're substituting. I don't want mushrooms, I want tomatoes. You don't want jumping, but sitting would be fantastic, okay? You don't want your dog to beg, but you know what? Settling on a bed would be perfect. You don't want a dog to nip your pants, but grabbing a toy and biting a toy, absolutely. We would love that, okay? So I put several basic behaviors. We call them foundation behaviors. Sit, target. Target means they touch their nose to your hand or to a margarine lid or whatever. Settle, which is basically what Rogan's doing, which is just kind of, can you go lay down on your bed? And then a watch, which is just, watching you, eye contact. All right, so those are just 4 relatively common foundation behaviors. So if we teach a sit, we can fix or begin to fix a dog that jumps, or a dog that counter surfs, or a dog that lunges at the end of its leash. So to fix those behaviors, those bad behaviors, we teach and reinforce the sit behavior. So we want the sit to be stronger than those other behaviors. So we reinforce it heavily. A target, teaching the dog to touch its nose to your hand, can fix running off. A dog that's touching your hand can't also be running off at the same time. It helps tremendously with a dog that pulls on leash, and it also helps tone down rude greetings, because again, a dog can't jump on you or lunge at the end of the leash if they're also touching your hand at the same time. All right, a settle. If we teach a settle, which is what Rogan's doing in that bed right there, that fixes door dashing. He can't dash out the door and stay in that bed at the same time. He can't jump on guests and stay in that bed at the same time. He also can't beg at the table or beg. I've got his dog food up here on my desk. He can't beg at the same time. And if we teach a good solid watch me or an eye contact, that helps with barking. It's most dogs, not every dog, but most dogs aren't going to look at you and bark at the neighbor's dog at the same time. Again, we can fix some lunging, and we can help that distracted doggo. They won't be as distracted if they're looking at you. So by identifying the thing that we do want the dog to do, we can get rid of those annoying behaviors that are in all of these lists here. And you can see there's 4 basic behaviors here, but we've covered a lot of kind of yucky behaviors, right? That nobody really likes. So it's pretty, the clicker can fix a lot of annoying things. You can use the clicker to teach your dog to cooperate with all kinds of husbandry tasks, grooming tasks, nail trims, ear cleaning, brushing their teeth. If they go to the groomer instead, if you don't want to do those things, but the groomer needs to do them, or the veterinarian needs to do them, or blood draws. The clicker can teach all of those. Here's a really cool video. I'm going to pause this real quick. Sugar. I want to give you a sort of background on this video, and I'll go back to it. This is at the Denver Zoo. A bunch of us trainers were there with Karen Pryor Academy, and we got a behind the scenes tour of the husbandry and the training. What kind of training do they do at the Denver Zoo? And it's all marker-based training. You'll hear whistles. So they don't use clickers there, they use whistles because they can just leave the whistle in their mouth and it leaves them 2 hands free. These are hyenas, and they remember that slide I showed that had hunks of meat? That is literally what these animals are getting. They're getting hunks of red meat. And because hyenas are not friendly, the trainers are working in what's called protected contact. They're behind the fence, and they're actually sliding food in to a chute so that the hyenas can't get the trainer's hands as the food is sliding in. So you'll see the trainers, you'll hear the whistle, and then you'll see them put food into like a chute, and then the hyenas will get the food from the bottom. So let me go back to that video and with that set up, and now you can watch this. It's fascinating.
It's on us, and kind of run around the stalls. Now they know to look at our cue hand and to line up in front of us wherever we are in the stall. Good way to get them focused before we give them a cue. Make sure they're right on the mark so that we can reinforce appropriately.
That whistle is the marker. It's like our clicker.
Training sessions with some of their really strong behaviors that they know really well. Usually they're downs and sits, and maybe a behavior that they find the most fun. And then we'll move on to
this is a cued behavior. They want that hyena to stand up on the fence.
Eject them or touch one of their feet, or use a second person. Probably the hardest struggle we have with training.
It's a down, a beautiful down.
Are always moving around, so they're always in a new environment. Sometimes it's like this, and they're fed in the middle of the day. Sometimes it's the beginning of the day. Sometimes it's at the end of the day. Sometimes lions are across the hall. Sometimes they're in a completely different part of the building. Definitely one of the fundamentals of training to train an animal in the same spots and the environment's the same all the time. We can't do that here. We don't have the option. So some of our behaviors take longer to train. But we found that even though it takes longer to train them, in the long run,
that animal did not earn that click. The trainer asked for side, and the animal did not do it, so he did not get his whistle. And you saw he also didn't get a click or a whistle.
They can be pretty focused. Now, I think it's probably our most high strung. He is our subordinate male, so he's subject to attacks by the other animals at random times to establish our hierarchy. You guys might notice some scarring on his neck. Yep, very normal for the subordinate male to have a lot of that scarring. They grab each other off the necks and hold each other down. A big focus of our training program with him is wound treatments. They don't, we really don't give them any antibiotics. They don't get any infections, but we do like to flush out his neck wounds when he gets them. So we will line up his neck for flushes, and he'll actually allow us to draw blood from his jugular vein. Finally, we draw blood on his jugular vein. You guys notice, you may show you guys on Pika, we do blood draws from his lateral saphenous vein. So he's trained to actually step up on the bar. We just decided to train the same behavior 2 different ways, just to see what the animals prefer. And we found that the hyenas actually prefer to have blood drawn from their jugular over their leg. Wow. And we attribute that mostly because
That's pretty cool. That was me on the video going, wow, that hyena they've taught that hyena to present its leg for a blood draw with clicker training. I mean, they used a whistle. It's a marker training. You heard two different, hopefully the sound and the video linked up there, but there were two different trainers. And so you heard two different whistles. Hyenas, much like dogs, much like people, they pay attention to the trainer in front of them. So they know when their trainer blew the whistle, and that's when they heard their trainer blow the whistle, that's when they would go get their goodie, not when they heard the other whistle. Dogs are the same way, and people are the same way too. We can sort of figure out if I'm talking to you, that you're the one that I'm dealing with, not with the person over there. So, excuse me. Fascinating. I wanted to get to that video because it's so cool. All right, I want to save some time for questions, so I'm going to run through some myths that I typically hear about clicker training. Spoiler alert, these are all myths. I say myth or fact on my slide, but these are all going to be myths. So your dog will only work if you have food. If you're a clicker trainer, you have to always have food on you. And that, of course, is false. Your dog actually works for the click, because the click is what brings the food, right? So your dog isn't really working for food. They're working for the click because they know that the click opens sort of the gate to the food. If you teach with a clicker, you have to use the clicker forever. And that, of course, is also false. We use the clicker to teach behavior. After your dog knows the behavior, you don't really have to use the clicker. The service dogs that I work with, they don't get clicked and treated every single time they do something right. It's impossible to do. We use the clicker to teach behavior and to sort of polish behavior. So if something sort of falls below the standard of what we need it, we can pull the clicker back out and refine that behavior as we need it. Well, if you're a clicker trainer, you're basically just bribing your dog. That is false, because the reward, a bribe, you say, if you do this thing, I will give you a goodie. Clicker training is the opposite of that. Because you did what I asked, I will give you this. So the reward is not offered before the dog does what's asked. The reward comes after the behavior and after the click. So we're putting the goodie at the end, not at the beginning. Clicker training, oh yeah, it'll work for tricks, but it's really not great for what's really important. And that, of course, is false. I will say though, if that's how you want to start, if you go, I don't really want to mess up the other stuff that I already have, but maybe I'll teach a new trick with it, start there. Absolutely. But in reality, behavior is behavior, whether it's a trick, whether it's a service dog behavior, whether it's something fun. We teach all kinds of behavior with the clicker, from pet dogs to service dogs. Behavior taught with the clicker is really, really reliable. Clicker training, if you're a clicker trainer, you put the dog in charge. I need to be the one that's alpha. Of course, that's another myth. Alpha status, dominant status doesn't affect learning. As you could hear in the hyena, they have a hierarchy in their hyena clan. I don't know what they're called. And that has nothing to do with learning. As you could see, both of those animals were learning side by side. So alpha, dominance, hierarchy, alpha's really fallen out of favor because we have new scientific findings. There's a link there that you can sort of look at. And I'm sure your dog's friend actually has that link somewhere online. But if you want to write that down, feel free. But yeah, that stuff is kind of irrelevant when we talk about clicker training. Some dogs, insert breed here, Rottweilers, German Shepherds, Pit Bulls, they need someone with a firm hand. Again, that's that's I don't know, is that what's called a wives' tale, or that's just a myth? All dogs learn the same way. They do what works and they don't do what doesn't work. If you remember way back to the beginning of this talk, where we talked about those rules of behavior, it's really pretty simple. It's as simple as that. All right, right on time here. Look at that. Ooh, pretty good. Quick review. Behaviors that get rewarded happen again and again and again. You want to be generous with your clicks and your treats. You saw how frequently that little puppy, all those little puppies that I showed you videos of, I was generous. And the hyena trainers also, you could see how many hunks of meat those those hyenas got. Remember, if you're going to use the clicker, only click the stuff you want to see more of. You don't want to use the clicker to interrupt behavior or to get their attention. Just, you want to use that to go, hey, I love that, and I'll pay you for it. For the reinforcer, you're going to use whatever the dog loves. Put a name on it, on the behavior. That's the add a cue part, put a name on it. And have fun. That's, oh gosh. If you do anything, have fun, because that's what this is all about. Okay, questions. Ask me questions. I want to hear. I want to answer questions. Are there any?
Laurie, there are a few that came in earlier.
Okay.
And it's about how you get a behavior to happen faster. So if your dog is turning around toward you and you haven't practiced it for a while, how do you work with a clicker on a behavior that they know, but it's just not as immediate as you'd like?
Okay, great. So that's excellent question. There are, and I'm going to clarify, or I'm not going to ask a question, but so that can be one, or that can be either it takes the dog a while. So you say the word spin and the dog just looks at you. And then after they're like, okay, I guess you must mean spin, then they spin. That's one problem. And then there's another problem, whereas you say the word spin, they start to spin right away, but they're just kind of pokey about it. So one is it takes them a while to get started. And the other problem is, oh no, they start right away. It just takes them a while to do it. Two different problems. One is called latency, and that is you give them the cue, you say the word, but they just kind of wait to see, are you going to say it again, or is that what you really meant? That's called latency. And we can speed that up by you say the word spin, they wait a few seconds, and then they start to spin. The instant they start to spin, you can click the instant they start, and then sort of deliver the treat. Let them do the spin, but deliver the treat sort of right back in front of you so that they hurry up to get that treat, right? So you're going to click them earlier. You're going to click them when they start to spin, as opposed to waiting for them to get started and get all the way around. So you're going to click the beginning of the behavior. If, on the other hand, and actually this next solution will work for either one of these. If they start right away, but they're just pretty pokey at it, a couple things you can do. You can use what we call a higher value reward. That basically just means use something better, right? So if I'm using regular kibble for Rogan, and I'm getting, it's a mediocre treat, so I'm getting mediocre responses. If I instead go, you know what, I've got some cheese chopped up, or I've got some of, I don't want to rattle this too much, but I've got some really good treats. This is Zook's Mini Naturals. These are higher value for him than his kibble. If I break these out, and again, he doesn't really know that I have them, but he, sorry. He speeds up a little bit, or I click the beginning of that spin. He gets a Zook's Minis. He's like, all right, let's do this. So that's another way. So you can increase bump up the value of the treat. And another way you can do it is if you get them, like if your dog likes to play tug or likes to chase the ball, or you get them sort of a little bit ramped up with a little bit of a game, and then cue the behavior after they're, up and ready to go, chances are you're going to get a faster behavior, and you can click those faster behaviors. Okay. So you're doing a couple different things there to try to get those faster behaviors. And then you're not clicking the slow ones or the ones where it took them longer to respond. If that makes sense. Sorry.
There's another situation.
Okay.
Noises in the hall causes her dog to bark. She will have him come, and he comes and gets a reward. Now, though, he will bark as if there's something out there, even when there isn't, so that he can come and get the reward.
Yes, dogs are brilliant, are they not? That dog is so smart that they figured out when I'm barking, my person calls me to them and I get goodies. So you know what? I'm just going to start barking. They're so smart that way. We don't love that. I'm excited about it because it just shows me how smart dogs are, but it's a pain to live with, right? So there's a couple different things you can do. If possible, if you could have sort of a white noise machine right there at the door to sort of help drown out the sounds, first of all. Second of all, if we can teach a settle at a mat, and the mat is further away from the door, that's going to help because there will be less opportunity for the dog to go, I think I might have heard a dust mote fall out there. I'm going to bark at it. And then, so waiting for the dog to engage in the behavior that we don't like, and then cueing a behavior that we do like actually makes the behavior that we don't like stronger because it's a chain. The dog chains together. Oh, I get it. When I bark, you call me and I get a click and a treat. And those behaviors get chained together. We'd like to break that chain. So there's another way you can go about it too. Randomly. So I love these little containers. And I say this, any small container that you can sort of leave anywhere on, even like a solo cup or these little guys. Ideally, it's not going to be one of these because you have to rattle this. And as soon as I rattle this to open it, he's going to be awake and he's going to be focused on me. So what I'd like is for you to have a couple of these containers around your place, just that the dog can't get into. Randomly, when the dog is not barking, I want you to call your dog to you, click and treat their dog for coming to you, ask for a sit, ask for a down, whatever your dog knows, a spin, a go get the toy, whatever. I want you to do that 8, 10, 12 times a day before the dog has barked. There's been no barking. You're just going to call randomly. It doesn't matter. You're going to call the dog to you, click and treat. Because we want the dog to learn that they don't have to bark in order for us to interact with them. So, and again, if you want to just scoop out a handful of their breakfast and put it in a bowl like this around the house, scoop out part of their breakfast. They can earn that throughout the day, right? And you're going to just randomly, when the dog isn't barking, call the dog to you and give them this click and treat and give them this goodie. And if they do start to bark and you know there's nothing in the hallway, you can ignore that if at all possible. And then when the dog is quiet, call them to you, click and treat. And then randomly, again, 5 minutes from then, if the dog is still quiet and hasn't barked since, call them to you and click and treat. So in other words, we're just trying to uncouple the barking with the coming when called, which gives them the click and a treat. And that just makes that bond tighter and tighter. We want to break that bond. So I want you to call that dog to you when the dog is quiet. You don't have to wake them up or anything, but if they're just kind of hanging out with you, call them to you when they're just wandering around or, hanging out, being quiet. And you're going to do that way more times a day than when your dog tries to convince you that you should call them because they're barking. So you're just going to uncouple those things.
Thank you. I needed to hear that too. Using clickers for leash reactive dogs. How do you do that?
The same way that you do it for non-leash reactive dogs. So you're going to teach your dog, your leash reactive dog, a behavior that you'd like them to do instead of focusing on the other person, the other dog, whatever. You're going to teach them what to do. Touch your hand, circle around, do a U-turn, whatever you need your dog to do before they start to be reactive, before they start to lunge or bark or jump. And then you're going to work on that, and you're going to ask them to do that behavior and click and treat them long before you actually need that behavior. So if you think of any sports team, a basketball team or a baseball team, or even a dance company or a theater company, or people that make movies, they rehearse and rehearse and rehearse and practice and practice and practice and run plays and spend time on the court. They do that most of their career is spent practicing, so that when they do get on the court or on the stage, that one time that they're on the stage or that one game that they're playing in, spectacular. When it really has to happen, it is solid. Why? Because they practiced for hours when it didn't really matter, right? You're going to do the same thing with your reactive dog. You're going to teach the behaviors that you want them to know. Touch your hand, circle behind you, do a U-turn, a watch me or a leave it. You're going to teach each of those individual behaviors with the clicker. You can teach it with the clicker, each of those behaviors, inside, indoors, where there's no distractions. And then you're going to, remember what I said, you're going to real life it. So you're going to add a cue to it. Then you're going to real life it. You need distractions. You need duration. You probably don't need distance because your dog's going to be close to you. So you need to start to add in distractions first. So that's where, we might have a distraction in the house, just a noise. And we're going to ask for the behavior of watch me or the behavior of touch my hand. So you've got somebody making a little bit of a noise. You ask the dog for a touch, and the dog can do it. If the dog can't do it with just a little bit of noise from a solo cup and no dog is involved, there's no way they're going to be able to do it out in real life. So you're going to practice with your distractions, being slight distractions at first, bigger distractions as you go. And then you're going to transfer that same behavior outdoors, because outdoors we've got wind, we've got birds, we've got squirrels, things that we can't control. So I like to practice indoors first, because we can control almost all of the distractions inside. So you're going to work that behavior to a solid level of distraction indoors. And you're going to take that behavior outside where you need it and work it to an acceptable level of distractions there. And only then, after you've put in those hours of practice, just like the WNBA stars do and the actors up on Broadway do, the football player, everybody puts in those hours. The people in the Olympics that just closed, the number of hours that went into prepping for that one event. That's where you reap the benefits. So I would do the same thing with a reactive dog as I would do for anything. The same thing as the crate training. You're going to find the behavior that you want to teach it, add a word to it, and then real life it. And then you can use that behavior in your reactive situation.
Can you click a reactive dog for looking at another dog and not reacting? So you're clicking that they're being quiet.
You can do that too. That is another strategy. Absolutely. Yes. And you can teach. So yes, you can click them. You can click a reactive dog for looking and not reacting to another dog, click and treat. That's where your treat value is going to have to be really, really high, because it's really hard for a reactive dog to not react, right? That's our problem. Is they're super reactive, or they're maybe not super, but they're really good at being reactive, right? And we're trying to decrease that. So we have to make the level of the reinforcer, we have to make that reward really, really worth it. Because man, is that dog good at barking at or lunging at another dog. We need them. It's so hard for them to do something other than bark at or lunge at another dog. It's so hard for them to do something else, that when they do something else, we've got to make it just make their little brains explode. Like, oh, this is fabulous, right? So yes.
Okay. How do you teach something they wouldn't normally do, like touching your hand?
That's a great question. So there are a couple of different ways that you can sort of set the dog up for success. So most dogs, as long as they're not afraid of hands, you can present, like this is just an eyeglass case. You can just put this in front of your dog's nose. Most dogs will touch it. They're just curious and they'll sniff it to see if it's something they can eat, usually. So you can, if dogs are afraid of hands, you can present anything, you know, an eyeglass case, Post-it note, you know, just anything that's sort of neutral can present a cup. Most dogs will sniff it to see what it is. You can click the moment they sniff and then give them a goodie. Like for instance, this is a printer cart. Oh no, let's see. This is a stapler. I don't know if you can see this or not. I've not worked with Rogan with a stapler. Can you help out, buddy? How about? I just put that out to him, and he sniffs it. Is it something he could eat? Right? I don't know if you can you see that? I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah.
And so he sniffs it to go, I don't know, can I eat this? And I go, you can't eat it, but I'll give you a click and a treat. So sometimes just the novelty, good job, buddy. Sometimes just having a novel object. Now, Rogan does not know how to spin, okay? I've not taught him that. So I could get him started. I've got a clicker. Tell me if I can't see myself, so you tell me if you can see me or not.
Yeah, so far.
Okay, so I've got a treat in my hand. It's just a little piece of dog food. I can just sort of lure him around, and I can click and treat that. So I can use a food lure to get the behavior started, right? So I can just, this is the piece of food, right this way. I put it right in front of his face. I don't let him eat it. I just, and then I click and treat. So you can also use a lure to do, to teach a dog something that they might not naturally do. A lot of people who get into clicker training will teach their dog to follow a target. And then instead of a lure, you can have them touch a target. And then instead of following the piece of food in my hand, you put the target out in front of it. It can be your hand. It can be anything you want. And then you, with an empty hand or an empty, sort of an empty target, you can teach them to follow the target and then click and treat that too. So there are a couple of different sort of strategies to get the dog, sort of set them up to do the right thing so that the click is easy. With the puppy that was going in and out of the crate, you saw how close we were to the crate. I mean, I didn't put the crate on the other side of the room. I put it pretty close to the puppy so that he was likely to look at it. And then once he looked at it, I could click and treat. And then once he knew that the crate was paying, he said, well, if looking at it's good, maybe stepping toward it's better. And I told him, absolutely, it's better. And then maybe if stepping toward it was good, maybe getting into it was better. You've got it, buddy. And so that's how we sort of set the dog up to succeed, even if it's something they might not normally do.
Here's another great question. When training a duration behavior, for example, a sit, then click as the dog sits down and then keep clicking and rewarding for duration? Or do you just reward rapidly as the dog remains sitting?
Great question. I like the click for me and the way I train, I like the click to mark, yay, you did it, right? At the end, right? So I like to, once the dog understands that sitting, and when I ask for a sit, I'll pay it. Typically what I tend to do is I'll ask for the behavior, ask for a sit. The dog will sit, and then I just delay my click for a second, right? So the dog sits, then I click and treat. So it's just a second. The dog usually can handle that little bit of a duration. And then I start to systematically increase the amount of time between when the dog sits and when I click, so that before long, the dog is sitting for 3 seconds and then 4 seconds. And then I might ask them to sit again, and I click after 2 seconds. So I tend to just delay my click. Let me see if I can, you tell me if you can see me. I'll get Rogan. Sit. Let's get the, hold on. His go to bed is pretty solid. So let's move that out of the way. You ready, bud? Sit. 1001. Right? I'm saying that out loud. I wouldn't necessarily say that if I was by myself. I'm doing that sort of for demonstration purposes. Rogan, sit. So before he could lie down, I clicked him because he will lie down instead. Ah, my fault. Oh my goodness, it's a crunchy treat. Sit.
Lori, can you stop sharing your screen so everyone
yeah.
can see you in full? Thanks.
Absolutely. That's a great idea. Okay, let me see. Okay, stop share.
There you go.
Okay. Oh, okay, great. Now I can see myself too. Oh, good. Okay. Come this way. Sit. Good boy. I'm gonna toss that away just so we can get up and move. He's the only Labrador that actually chews treats, I swear. Sit. Good boy. So I'm just delaying my click. That's how I tend to get duration. In the beginning, I'm hoping for the dog, they think that I'm just a little slow getting to the click. So I don't want that. I don't want it to be so long that they either get up, lie down, try something else, or think that, oh, that's not really what you asked. Sit. So in the beginning, I will just delay my click just a little bit. Let me see if I can get him back up again. Just long enough that it feels like I'm just a little bit slow getting to the click. Because if I wait too long, he'll lie down or he'll get up and leave. Sit. See how he started to throw that leg out there? So I can't wait too long with him because he will try to lie down.
That's also after he already knows it. Before that, you can't work on duration.
Correct. That is a great clarification. You put your bed down, buddy. Sorry. I make going to his bed a really, really high value. We use the go to your bed all the time, everywhere. I make it nice and strong because it keeps him out of trouble. In the kitchen, keeps him out of, just everywhere. Yes, you want to make sure that that behavior that you're wanting to put duration on is already solid and you've already added the word to it. I wouldn't add duration or distractions to anything that I've sort of just taught.
Do you have any hints for handling the leash, clicker, and treat when out walking?
Yes, I do. So I tend to have a treat pouch, and I wear it sort of on my belt or on my, on your pants. I wear a treat pouch here. I tend to have the clicker and the leash in the same hand. So I will have clicker and leash, and that's why I love these box clickers, because I can hang on to this. My thumb is already in it, and I can also hold on to the leash. I don't have a leash here, but let's pretend that my computer clicked mistakenly. Let's pretend that this is my leash. It's actually the computer cord. I tend to have leash in hand, and that goes across my body when I'm out walking. So I have my clicker and my leash, and my treats are over here, or they could be here too, but if your dog gets too distracted. So I've got treat bag here. So I've got everything in this hand so that I can then click and treat the dog. So I have one hand free. If the clicker is too much and you just want to have a leash, you can absolutely do that. And you have your leash in your hand, and then instead of clicking, you do the, or the yip, whatever word or sound you want your click to be when you're out and about. So for instance, when I'm doing nail trims, I don't have an extra hand. I need 3 hands if I'm going to click and treat and handle a nail. So I will use my word yip when if I don't have enough hands. And so if a clicker's just too much to have when you're out and about, that's the cool thing about clicker training. It's really marker training, and you can teach a verbal marker. Yep. It's just something that's totally, it only means that one thing. And that's why I use a nonsense word like yip, or a, it doesn't, there's nothing magical about the sound that you make, just as long as it's consistent.
Okay, Lisa has a 10, 11-week-old puppy that bites during play. How can she use a clicker to stop the play biting?
Yay, excellent question. So I just happen to have this in the room with me. So a lot of times I'm doing board and trains now with puppies, and they love to jump up and, grab onto clothes. If you can use your clicker to click and treat that puppy for grabbing a toy and playing with the toy instead of playing with you. So in other words, what I like to do is use the toy. I will use the toy to play with the puppy, so that and I like longer toys too. Like you can see how far, if I hold the toy here, the puppy's mouth can be all the way down here, which is so far away from my hand, right? I don't like to use the small toys where the puppy, when they go to regrip, they're biting your hand. So I like these nice long toys. They actually have longer, like the rope toys that are longer. They can actually drag behind you, and the puppies love to chase those. So you can use the clicker if you'd like, if you would like to actually teach the skill of grabbing the toy. Otherwise, you can just have a couple of these toys around your house. So here's an example of a toy that I do not like to play with the puppy, because you can see that if I'm hanging on to this toy, it doesn't take much for that puppy to grab my fingers, right? This is he's really cute, but BarkBox fans will recognize this from the winter toy. This is such a, my hand can be so much further away from the puppy's mouth. So I like to use longer toys. And a lot of times you don't even have to use the clicker with this. You can just simply, when the puppy grabs this toy, you can just play with them. Ooh, I'm going to get you. Ooh, what a good puppy. Ooh, I'm going to get you. Right. And you just gently can, gently shake the toy back and forth, and they love it. Right. And so then when they do sort of redirect, or they, they grip the toy and they wind up down here, then you drop the toy and all play stops, right? So you don't even have to use the clicker for that. But if you wanted to, you could by simply clicking and treating when they grab the toy. But what you'll probably most likely get is then a puppy who sits in front of you wanting to train, not necessarily wanting to play, because they'd much rather get food than they would rather get a toy. So, so I like to do puppy nipping. Really is just, I'll play with you with a toy that's appropriate, because they can keep their mouth far away from my hand. So A, I play with a toy with the puppies, and B, with a toy that's long enough that they stay far away from my hands. If they do happen to grab my hand, I just simply drop the toy. The toy is no fun now that I'm not holding it, because I'm the one that tugs with them. So I hope that helps. You don't even really need a clicker for that. You can do that with just how you interact with the puppy when he has the toy.
Okay, guys, don't add any more questions. We will try to zip through these. How do you use the clicker when correcting barking at the fence or at household sounds?
Okay, so you've got a problem behavior, and the problem behavior is barking. And so we say, what would you like the dog to do instead? Sometimes people will say, you know what, it's okay if they bark, but I just like them to stop, just don't bark for so long. Or again, we get into the habit that we get into the sort of the routine of, oh my gosh, the dog is barking. Come here. Let me feed you. So there are a couple things you can do. One is, if the question was that they're at the fence, right? So if they're at the fence, I like to just, before there's anything to bark at, I like to call them away from the fence, give them goodies, and then let them go back out, or let them wander back about the lawn. I'll call them to me. There's nothing out there. So in other words, you're practicing the behavior that you want, which is come back to me, before you actually need it. And we are we're letting them practice that a lot, the coming back to you before there's any distractions, so that hopefully if we work that and we make that behavior solid, if they are barking, you call them back to you, you click and treat. But here's the thing, since we had the question before, you don't want to only call them when they're barking, or they will learn to bark to get you to call them. They're very, very smart. So teaching the behavior that you want, which is coming to you, and then using that before I'm going to call it bad behavior. It's not bad. It's very natural, normal dog behavior. But let's just say the unwanted behavior starts. Because barking for dogs, a lot of times, is what we call self-rewarding, self-reinforcing. They don't need us to have a good time barking, right? They can bark at the fence. You'll hear a lot of people say, oh, just don't reward it. Ignore the behavior that you don't want. Well, you can ignore that all day and they'll bark at the fence all day, right? So that's one of those behaviors where we have to interrupt it, we have to teach the correct behavior, and then we want to make sure that we're giving them plenty of opportunities to get that reinforcer to come to us when called before we ever really need to use it, because we want to make sure we're calling them to us without the barking first, because that's what sets up that marriage of, when I bark, she calls and gives me a goodie, so therefore I will bark to get the goodie. We don't want that to ever become put together. We don't want them to put that puzzle piece together. We want those two things to be separate. Coming when called always gets something good, and you call them to you many times a day, so that the occasional time that they're barking, they don't ever put those two things together.
Would a clicker with a louder sound be more effective outdoors?
The box clicker is great for that. Yes, the box clicker is fantastic. That's why I love this. I'm an old lady, and this is what I learned on. I learned on a box clicker. These work great. This is called an iClick. It's a clicker, but yes, if you need a louder click, the the box clicker is your friend. That's what you really want to go with. It's the loudest. I use either one, and I will sometimes, like I said, very often use a mouth click if or a yip if I'm out and about and I just don't have enough hands.
Someone wants to know if you could go over clicker training, going to the mat and staying there.
Yeah, so with the little yellow puppy, that was, I think, maybe might have been the first video that I showed, that it was the beginnings of going to the mat, right? So going to the mat, I just sort of sat next to the mat on the floor, and anytime the puppy put a foot on the mat, I clicked and treated. And I clicked and tossed the treat off because I need the puppy to be able to come back on the mat to earn a treat. So I always like to toss the treat off so that the puppy can come back and earn a treat. That sort of sets up this whole like sort of magnetic me, right? If I toss the treat off and they get clicked for coming back, that's just a nice sort of motor pattern to develop. Once they're good at coming to the mat, we need to add a word, right? My word for going to the mat is settle. So once I know they're going to come to that mat and lie down, and that's solid, then I'll add the word settle. Right as they're getting ready to step on the mat, I add the word settle. After they're really good, I can ask for settle and they will come and lie down. That's when I can start asking for the duration. And I don't even ask for it. I click for it, right? So I will say the word settle. They'll come to the mat and lie down. And then I click and treat. And I usually, again, if you're working for duration, you can click and treat on the mat because now we want them to stay on the mat. So you can click and treat for them being on the mat. And you might do, I don't know, 3 or 4 clicks and treats for them staying on the mat. And then that 5th click, you toss the treat off. You ask them to settle. They come back and lie down. And then you click and treat. And you can click and treat and you can click and treat. And then you click and toss the treat off. So it's just that sort of succession of get the behavior you want, name it, and then you can start to add your duration to the settle on a mat.
What is the difference for you between settle and go to bed?
Go to bed is an actual specific place. So if I ask Rogan to go to his bed, he will find a bed and go to it. If I have him out in public and I bring a towel, I can put that towel somewhere and ask him to settle on it. So bed in my house, and this is everybody's different. So don't think that you have to set your house up this way. In my house, settle is used very frequently if we're out and about and there is no bed for him to go to. Go to your bed means go find one of your beds and lie down in it. Settle on a mat is here's a napkin. Will you lie down on this spot, right? So I had to use that once in service dog training. I didn't have a mat, but I had a napkin from a restaurant and I needed the dog to settle and relax. And so I just put a napkin out and said, settle. And it was really just a target that the dog laid down on. So that's the difference for me in my house.
And how do you train for those differences?
It really just is environmental. So I never have the dog's bed out in public. It's just too big. It's too unwieldy. So I don't ever have a dog that I never, for any of my service dogs, did I ever carry a bed around, you saw that's probably, 2 inches, 3 inches, 4 inches high. So the dogs learned pretty quickly. The bed was in the house and anything else is settle. I didn't really teach it specifically, but they learned it because the bed was never anywhere else but in the house.
I think that's about it. Laurie.
Excellent. Well, thank you. I really had a good time.
And everyone, thank you for joining us. You can see our future webinars on our website, and you can see videos of previous webinars. And this one will be up in a few days, and we will send all of you who registered a link once it is up. Let's see.
I do have, am I sharing my screen now? No, I wanted to.
No, you're not.
I wanted to put my contact.
I want to apologize to everyone. Y'all were asking about not sharing the screen, and I was looking back at old questions. So thank you, Jean, for mentioning that because it made a big difference.
Yeah, it makes a huge difference. Let me see if I can, hold on one second, and let me go to Keynote. Just so you can, if you want, I have oops, and I know you can't see that because there's a big.
You never put up your contact information.
I know, that's what I'm trying to do now. Let me see if I can do it.
Oh, there.
Can you see that now?
We could a second ago. Yeah.
Now can you?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's some resources for you. And then on the next screen, I have my contact information, but there, you can write that down if you want, my website. And then clickertraining.com is another good website. Of course, Your Dog's Friend is the end all be all of resources. You guys have the best website.
Thank you.
And then if you want to contact me, that's how you can get in touch with me. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram. And then there's my email address if you have questions. I'm happy to.
Said earlier, you're starting to do board and train with puppies.
Yes, and I'm specializing in puppies, especially large breed puppies. And that's what I'm doing now is puppy board and trains. Yeah, I love it. So thank you for the opportunity. I really appreciate it.
Okay. Well, thanks everyone for coming, and thank Laurie. We will see you another time.
Sounds good. Thanks.
All right.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.